So yesterday, like many of you guys, I sat and watched the Cat case. I'm going to put my points across now. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because there's been a lot of shows about it already. But I'm just going to sort of talk about my interests in it and where I think the Premier League look absolutely shocking. This is the Toon review. Hi everybody, I'm Paul, back again with another video and talking about the Cat case yesterday. And like I said in the intro there, many thousands watched it, many intrigued by it to find out what was going on. But there was some revelations come out, certainly about Newcastle United being thrown out of the Premier League. The Premier League had abused its power, etc. But we'll have a look at the talking points or some of the major ones. I want to, I've got the website in front of us just to sort of clarify some of the comments that were made. And I just want to start about how the Premier League abused their position. I thought Daniel Jowl did a fantastic job yesterday when he eventually got a say, because that Premier League QC, my God, he could talk, and it was. Well, I think from the start, it was plain obvious that the Premier League were desperate to get this case thrown away. They were concentrating more on arbitration. They didn't want this to go ahead, and they were desperate for the information not to come out. Now, if what that QC said yesterday did not get everybody thinking, wow, what have the Premier League got to hide here? What are they not wanting to come out into the public eye? Because if they had nothing to hide, why did they want that discussion regarding arbitration, etc., to be behind closed doors, i.e. not on the live stream so the public can't hear? It is clear as day that something fishy has gone on at the Premier League and they desperately don't want it to come out. You know, I wouldn't have been surprised if Hoffman and Masters were sitting off camera yesterday with their QC, passing them stuff to say, because they are panicking. And it was clear and obvious yesterday that they were clearly in a panic about any information coming out regarding this takeover. Now, Daniel Jowl went on to say that it was improperly influenced, the takeover. Now, that can only be talking about such teams as the Six, the cartel that we know had an influence and had a say on things. And they weren't happy that Newcastle United were going to become the richest club in the world. That was obvious. We already knew that really before we went into the case yesterday. Obviously, it was, Daniel Jowl then went on to say it was an unfair application of the rules and abuse of its position, which distorted competition. Now, obviously, all this information didn't come out as to why or what was done in order to stop the takeover going through, but people can put two and two together. People understand that the six big clubs, or they like to call themselves the six big clubs, had a massive influence on this and were frightened that Newcastle United were suddenly going to sort of become mega rich and become a powerhouse in the Premier League. Much more of a powerhouse than all the other teams, because we'd be the richest club in the world. And the Premier League didn't want that to happen. They've come out with quotes before, i.e., we don't want another Leicester City. So it was blatantly obvious. We'll have a look at the Premier League threat to Newcastle. So this was the quote by Mr. Jowl yesterday when he was talking about it. He talked about Newcastle losses in excess of £10 million from all of this, and added that the Premier League had not carried through with its threat to stop the club participating in the competition. What an absolute pile of shite that is from the Premier League, by the way. Because, I'll say this, you look at those ESL teams, okay? Them ESL teams have had a slap on the wrist and a little fine. All for trying to destroy English football. Where is the sense in that? Where's the common sense in that? Yet because Newcastle United want to take over and they're fighting for it, we get threatened with being thrown out of the Premier League. Now, for me, I couldn't give a toss if we got thrown out of the Premier League. Go into the Football League for all I care. At least we won't get the scandal and the disgrace of what the Premier League are doing, because they are just, I think they're clutching at straws, if I'm openly honest. I mean, I don't get why they have to threaten to throw Newcastle out of the league. It's just disgraceful. And it just goes to show who has the power here in the Premier League. You know, these 6 teams had wanted to start off to a Super League, destroying English football as we know it, as it's been for years and years. But no, slap on the wrist, that'll do. You know, a little bit of a fine, which is pocket money to these clubs. I just think the whole thing is a fucking farce now. Because as soon as that QC from the Premier League started talking yesterday, it was blatantly obvious that he was desperate for them to get that case thrown out. And then, of course, did you see the panic on his face when he was talking about, you know, stopping the stream so they could discuss the arbitration stuff that really shouldn't be in the public eye? Why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't anything regarding this case be in the public eye? It is of public interest, especially the Newcastle fans. And you could see the desperation on his face. He was desperate for nothing to come out because they are clearly hiding something. And it will come out eventually, obviously. We know. You know, we've recently found out now that, you know, trolls, online trolls sending abuse to the NUFC hashtag. I mean, come on. Unbelievable. I mean, you know, I would say go and watch Steve Wraith's show last night because the guests he had one was superb, and it was explained about the online trolling and how they pay people to do it. I mean, who knew all this was going on behind the scenes? It's absolutely incredible. Qatar clearly didn't want the takeover, you know, but it's all right for them to sort of, you know, jump into Paris Saint-Germain, jump into Manchester City, whatever it may be. I just think that the whole thing stinks, and it will always stink. But this arbitration case, you know, on the 3rd of January is going to be massive because a lot of shit is going to hit the fan, certainly for the Premier League. I got that impression yesterday that, you know, because of the way they were behaving in trying to get that case thrown out yesterday, and because of the way they behaved trying to hide everything and not get anything into the public eye, they are going to shit themselves for the arbitration. Now, the arbitration, of course, is to say that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will not be a director during the transaction or when PIF take over. Now, if that comes back and Newcastle United succeed with that, I don't see what is stopping the takeover. Because the Premier League have nothing. It's clear. You know, I mean, that QC from the Premier League, he rambled on for so long yesterday, but sometimes the desperation in his face was actually laughable. I mean, you know, I'm not going to babble on about the whole case. Just the major point there was about, for me, Newcastle United getting thrown out of the Premier League, and that the Premier League had basically abused their position. So they are going to be very, very strong points come any future cases. Any future cases, they're going to be using that. It was very interesting watching Nick DeMarco yesterday because obviously he was there representing Newcastle United, not St James's Holden, so he didn't really have a lot to say, you know, in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, it was very, very different, obviously. He had probably a lot to say when they were talking about the arbitration, etc. So he is just ready to pounce, isn't he? You just got that impression with Nick DeMarco that he was ready to pounce on something. But you know what? Anybody that watches that yesterday, certainly in my eyes, cannot possibly come out and say that there is not corruption in the Premier League because they are hiding something and it is all going to hit the fan with it. Masters and Hoffman are desperate now. You know, it's clear from, you know, the way he was going on yesterday, that QC, that they are desperate because something is behind the scenes. Something hasn't come into the public eye yet regarding why the Premier League said no to the takeover. The Premier League just do not want this to come out into the public eye. Despite telling everybody they're happy for it to be public, they aren't. And you know they're not. So what could it be? That is the question. I mean, we know they're influenced by the 6 clubs. Has there been something said in there that really they shouldn't have taken notice of, but they have? And they've abused, like they said yesterday, abused their power in listening to these 6 clubs and saying, right, we don't want anything to come of this takeover. We do not want Newcastle United being a powerhouse, because they realise that the money that would be available to Newcastle United would transform that football club, without a doubt. But this for Newcastle fans is more than the football club, though. This is the stadium, the training ground, the area itself, the money that PIF were going to put into the area, creating jobs, etc. It's not just about on the football field. It's the whole thing behind the scenes. And this is what a lot of other clubs, certainly the cartel clubs, do not realise. They just think Newcastle, small club in the north, whatever, we'll forget all about them. Well, no, it's not going to be forgotten about. And what has become clear is that this is not over. This is definitely not over. You could think it is. Many people still think it's not. It's got no chance. But to me, from what I watched yesterday and what I heard, this is still on. This is still on, and we are going to fight. The club is going to fight all it can to get this takeover through. So I was happy with what the guy said yesterday. I was very happy, from St James's Holden. But Lewis, this QC for the Premier League, just from the off, I got a feeling about him. I don't know what it was, just when he started talking and the desperation in his face and his voice to keep things from the public was there for all to see. The Premier League have declined to comment on anything that happened yesterday, but then again, did we expect anything else from the Premier League? I just think it's absolutely disgraceful about threatening to kick us out and stuff like that. Did they actually threaten the Big Six to be kicked out of the Premier League? Bollocks, did they? Absolute bollocks. So, for me, it's one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. And I think the rest of the Premier League clubs yesterday would have taken a keen eye on this and would have seen what had gone on. They would have had somebody from the clubs watching it, and they will have probably come to the same outcome as many other people, is that these 6 clubs basically run the Premier League. They try and dictate what happens, and it stinks to high heaven. It really does. But let me know in the comments below what you thought of the court case. Were you happy with it? Were you intrigued by it? Are you feeling confident after it? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. We'll have a discussion about it. Thanks very much for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit the like button. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please do consider subscribing. And more live stuff coming up on Friday night at 8 o'clock. I've got the Wolves versus Newcastle United match preview, and I'm joined by Mark, the Wolves fan, for that one. So really looking forward to that. And then I'll do a review on Sunday of the match because I'll be there at Molineux. So really looking forward to going down there as well. So very exciting stuff. And then, of course, the Four Horsemen back at 8 o'clock on Monday night. Fan Forum at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night as well. So do stay tuned. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, whatever you get up to. And I'll catch you on the preview tomorrow. Take care.